Welcome to the Reality After Show with, I don't even know why there's a Johnny Fairplay logo. It's with Matt Bischoff, Alex Trias, Dan Montchal, all that matters. Johnny is out there gallivanting around in New Jersey at a viewing party. Hope he's having a good time. But I'm having a good time because I was out on my patio. It's a little bit chilly, maybe like 58 degrees, but I have my patio heaters going. So I was enjoying the outdoors, watching just a good old classic episode of Survivor. Last week, Johnny went on a freaking tangent of his annoyance and issues he has with certain things. And even myself, commercial break mid challenge and some other things that went on last week, wasn't too happy about. However, this season as a whole, I just want to tell everyone that listens to our podcast, I've enjoyed podcasting this season. I've enjoyed the characters. And tonight, we talked about it right before we went on the air. This was a classic episode of Survivor. I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed seeing the rain and the freaking misery that these people had. I liked seeing just the camp life dynamic of, wow, these are real people talking about real life stuff that kind of brings you to like, wow, wait a second. We've seen Caroline portrayed as this crazy person that some people think. I don't. I think she's the most entertaining player this season. But she gets a lot of hatred online. And we get to see more of her story and her tribe rallying around her. So, dude, I love this episode. I would give your guys just kind of hot takes on this as a whole before we get into it.
I'll save my my remarks. Dan, have your victory lap.
Suck it, Kane, you son of a bitch. No, it was a really good episode. I've been joking around about it. I was still never concerned that Kane was going to win. It would have had to been 3 more weeks before I really started to sweat it out. But everything that you said, Matt, this is why all of us love Survivor, because it was a classic Survivor episode. We got to see, some good stuff at camp. There was very little, sure, we had that little bit in the beginning about the idol hunt, but there was no talk of advantages really until it came to the vote. We got tons of camp life. Everyone actually got to vote. It was straightforward. There wasn't some weird twist or, new dynamic in the game. So everything about this episode is an episode that could have been on like 15 years ago. And it would have been like, it fits right in. Time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we'll have a lot of talking points throughout this episode about things that have happened, things that were right, things that shouldn't happen as a player, decisions that were made by certain people right in the middle. Because, what was really nice, and I was talking to my friend John, who he does stuff on the specialist page. That they do great work. But we were talking during the commercial about the final 9. Like the final 9 and final 7 votes in a world where like there are no twists during the game. It's just you, immunity, and some advantages out there can create some of the best votes, and like that can really shake up the path of where the game is going to go and when you get to the end game. And you see it here, and a big thing about it, just like how there's only 3 of us here on this podcast tonight, there was 3 individuals from each starting tribe. And that was like a situation that it was very blatant during this episode. Very blatant. Everyone's talking straight up about it. It's a big indicator for certain people of why they want to target some people. It gets ignored, and we'll talk about that. But I think Franny being ignored about a real thing about the Tika 3 because people are blinded by advantages of the other side, I think it's going to weigh volumes. Like I feel like there has to be a reason why they're putting so much focus on it.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, and I know this is at the very end or next time on Survivor. What do you think about this? I think it was Jamie that says alliances are no longer a thing on Survivor, right? What do you think about that statement?
So I think she's talking more reactionary of her position in the game. Mm-hmm. And also like the timing, because in essence, I don't agree and I agree. alliances are very important. They're essential to the game because you need to have trust in somebody to help you sway a vote. Even if you talk about like vote clusters, voting blocks, or whatever, like things that change as the game goes on, that's still in essence an alliance. It's a short-term one, but it's still an alliance. I think what we're going to see is like a fuller confessional about her saying like, because of her position in the game, I only have Lauren. There's really nobody else here. The time for alliances is over. Like now it's the time for survival. Now it's time for me hoping that the other groups want to shake something up within themselves.
I just don't take too
And
much of what Jamie says that seriously. Of course, it was in Next Time On, but I mean, all that she's really talked about for the past few episodes is her idol, which isn't real. So it seemed more of kind of clowning her than anything. So until I see more, I'm really not going to take anything that Jamie says that seriously.
No, I think she has zero chance of winning.
Will you bet a tattoo on it?
No. Oh. No, you know why? Because I'll tell you why. Because last season I said to my freaking doctor, who's big time Survivor fans, I would go in there and get some blood work and stuff. And they're like, we're in this office pool and I have Gabler to win. I was like, well, you're screwed because Gabler has zero chance of winning. None. Zilch. If he wins, I'll shave my beard. And of course I go in there like, the next time after Gabler wins, I was like, I'm an idiot. I thought, Gabler won. So but Jamie, I don't know. We saw from the beginning of the season how she is kind of just super paranoid. I still see that in her kind of vibe. I feel this paranoia. I don't see this confidence of a player.
It's funny though, because she's being edited as a paranoid player, like very scattered, maybe a little overconfident with her ability of like, oh, well, I've been at the most beaches, so I have the most information. I have an idol. Where in reality, like if we look and take that step back and from being like a casual viewer and you like really try to start assessing it and you like have some of the information from the exits and things like that, it's like she was right to be paranoid at the beginning of the game. She was the first name being discussed. So like now, like there's reason behind that. She was given an idol through Matt's trickery with the idol paper. So in her head, even if it looks like crap, in what world should she assume that this is a fake idol? So now, of course, she's going to believe that it's real because there's been nothing to indicate otherwise. Right. And then you get to this point of the game where like you feel like you have this information because you've been exposed to the most people. So of course you're going to have this idea of like thinking you have the most information. And then once you're blindsided, all that just goes out the window. But like you could see even with her paranoia tonight, if she was truly paranoid, she would have told Kane to play that idol, but she decided to have trust in what was gonna happen and holds off. Because you see her hands start to move, be like she's looking at Kane like, I don't know. And then she like composes herself. I'm going to just let fate decide.
Mm-hmm. And we saw tonight too a live tribal, and I know some people like hate it. Some people like it. I know when I played Survivor Caramoan, a live tribal was not even something that even ever happened. Now we see it's more commonplace. Tonight's tribal council, when it went live, is like Caroline seemed to be pretty paranoid. Like, is this still the same plan? And then everyone starts getting up and whispering. What is your guys' takes on just the live
on the tribal? Live tribal?
Yes.
I'll start. I think they can be useful. We have seen them be useful. Mm-hmm. I don't think this one was useful. I think this was one of those typical, we're gonna get up, scramble around. Like Soka uses the opportunity to be like, well, if we scramble around, maybe Jamie will flush her idol, even though we're all dumping on Kane. Like it's more like pop in circumstance because Jeff is allowing it, because you see his reaction. His reaction isn't get back in your seats. He's like, I have the best view in the house.
Mhm.
Someone from department, get me some popcorn. I'm here to sit and watch the show
Mhm.
because I'm watching it through the eyes of a 5-year-old. That's how I make Survivor.
Ugh.
Apply now.
That's the. So does he really say that he? We talked about this before.
Yeah.
He says he makes the show for.
He says
like a young person.
he makes it through the eyes of a child. So like the game, but like I want to know, because as much as I'm a big detractor of the ratings,
Yeah.
I want to know what those demos are on the children that he invents the game through their vision. And also let's also take it a little sidetrack here, because it's our weekly chance of shit posting on Jeff Probst.
Yeah.
Great host. Thank you for making Survivor a thing, giving us a platform to do what we do. Love you for that. You should not be an executive producer, but did you hear his new thing with Dalton Ross about how he now wants the juries to watch the individual immunities live? Like
Yeah,
they would
I
come
saw a
from
little bit of thing about
Sequester,
that.
from Ponderosa to watch it. And my opinion, I would love to hear both of your reactions to it. I think it's incredibly stupid because the challenges, in my opinion, outside of like, yes, you can win immunity, are the least important part of the game in my mind, because Survivor is a social experiment. It's about outmaneuvering people. It's about figuring out your social position in order to advance your game. It's not about, well, I was able to balance the longest, so I should win Survivor.
Pardon me. The only thing I will say is, based off of what we're hearing about having the jury watch the challenges, I would have to say that I agree with what you're saying, that challenges really don't matter. However, if I'm there, and I know they talked about it at Tribal, but the people that like sit out because they want rice, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's like the one piece of information that you can get, and that's one specific instance. It's
I
not like every
know.
single round that happens.
Right,
So,
and they already talked about that at Tribal, where the jury found out that people sat out for
yeah,
negotiating.
so like my information, my like counterpoint to that is always just, ultimately in the hours of discussion, everything that happens in that immunity challenge is laid out for the jury to know who exactly sat out, why did they sit out. Like half of this tribal council is about, why did people sit out for the rice? This is so interesting, so fascinating that rice could really drive your game, which is so stupid because it's appropriating bad behavior by production to make this a constant thing in the game. But I'll say more of that thought process.
What is the benefit? Like, what is the benefit of the jury? Like, I'm just trying to think. If I was in the jury,
it's so people like Jonathan can win the game.
Yeah,
it's in his head. He's like, well, if they watch this, how magnificent Colby Donaldson looks winning that immunity necklace 5 times, of course they'll vote for Colby.
Yeah, but
despite everything else.
But the thing is like, you already know who wins the challenge based off of who has the necklace at Tribal.
Exactly.
So like, you already know the Aussies, the Joe Anglams, the Colby Donaldsons are bad at, or whoever it is. Franny, for Christ's sake. Cochran on my season. Holy crap, they're a challenge beast. I don't find it. I don't find really any benefit to it.
If anything, I don't want the jury to spend more time together than they already are, because we already have time where members of the jury are convinced, they're pitching, hey, vote for this person at the end or whatever. I want them to have as least interaction as possible, because when they go up there to vote at the end of the game, I want it to be solely based off of the information they've gathered at these tribal councils, not based upon what they're told or what they're seeing, because that's part of the game.
Yeah. So I agree with you there. I don't mind the jury spending all the time with each other in Ponderosa. As part of the game, as part of being sequestered as a jury. I don't think them all being isolated from each other really amounts to much, because you'll all have time together anyway. But one thing about Survivor is always about those facial reactions. Like, how do people receive what's going on? And the jury being there almost harms players' games. Like, imagine Matt Blankenship sitting at that immunity challenge this episode, like just staring and like drooling over the fact that Franny is about to win another immunity challenge. Like that damages her game. Like I don't need people to see what the jury are already thinking. We'll see it enough at tribal council.
Yeah. I don't think that that's the greatest idea. Just like I don't think like Hourglass Twist and other things are the greatest idea. Yes, I do feel that as much as we hate all these crazy advantages, tonight was a beautiful example that none of that shit was played. It was
Only
a straightforward deal.
Just an extra vote. Just an extra vote was played.
But I'm saying like there was like no idle nullifier,
no idle nullifier.
No this, that. So but yeah, let's start at the beginning. So Brandon is out of this game. Lauren is not stoked that they didn't split the votes because of the way that things
we find out it was Brandon. Brandon's the reason why they don't split the vote. And now and I find that so fascinating now that we see like what happens at the end of the episode. So because Brandon deciding that he doesn't want to split vote could ultimately have led to why Kane goes home tonight. Because in a world where they had split then and maybe used the extra vote then, even if Tika wanted to try to do something, the split vote prevents that. Right. So when Danny plays his idol for Franny, someone else plays their idol for Brandon. Now it's a clean vote. Tika has to show their cards. Like other things could have happened in a world where they split instead of just going full on it. Because now we get to this episode and splitting puts so much faith on the other grouping of the tribe to do what they said they were going to do, or it's meaningless. It wouldn't have mattered if you piled on someone or you split.
Do you think Brandon's pissed looking at watching this? Like, dang it, why didn't I say we should split the vote?
I think you probably have your general ideas of like, damn. Like I feel like you your approach of like, damn, like
right, yeah,
I could have done this. I think he's very content with how he did. I think he's getting ready for the Challenge USA season 3.
Really?
That's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, there's no blood on Jam Jam's hands, and we see Jam Jam in a confessional who says, "I'm like James Bond, 000, 000." I think is what he said. I was laughing.
He brings up how ever since the Mergatory vote, everyone who wrote his name down then has gone home. Josh went home that vote. Then Matt goes home. Brandon goes home. The only person left who had written his name down at that vote was Kane. And this is a big... for Jam Jam, I don't think it's bad. For the ultimate outcome of the vote tonight, I think it was a poor decision. Because, like, as Dan said, I love Kane. I think he wasn't given enough in this season because I think he seems like a very fun character. And also probably like a very self-deprecating person. And I enjoy that. And him going home when this is a fact, he leaves the game tonight 0% on the amount of times he actually voted for the person who went home. Never voted someone out of the game. Never had an advantage. Well, I guess technically he was given a fake idol, but that he thought was real. But like there's no reason for it. And the only thing we hear during the scramble is, well, he's smarter than the women, which is a weird comment to make. Because I think, given that, I think Lauren seems very street smart and like has her eye, like everything she says makes all the sense in the world with how you should be playing like a simplistic round of Survivor. But it's weird. It's interesting. But Jam Jam good Jam Jam.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
I think I understand, and we'll get more into what right move, wrong move, all of that as we go through it. But I think what it's doing is it's making Jam Jam this bigger threat because he's able to say everyone that I wanted to go home. And so I think either A, it puts it to the point where he becomes this bigger threat, or anyone who he's there with at the end, he gets to say no, like, Carolyn wanted to go this way. Carson wanted to go this way. I was the one that persuaded them and got my way to get out the people who voted for me.
And I think that's why, like, we could be getting set up for Jam Jam leaving, like, next episode. Like, I think everything that's going on in the preview for the next time on, I think it's like Danny's going to be like, oh, this is time to do the strike. And the strike is, oh, we're going to just take out Lauren now because she doesn't have her extra vote. Like, I think that's what he's thinking. The big move is like, let's keep decimating Ratu. And then I think the girls like Heidi and Franny, because you hear Heidi saying, I want to play my own game. Franny talks this episode about Tika being a threat. I think we see a world where like the 4 girls of Ratu and Soka come together and target Jam Jam. Because Jam Jam, while being able to be out in front and very vocal and being him, going like, I feel like I'm going home every single time. I don't know what's going on. Like, screw that. He knows very well what's going on. He has taken out every single person who has said his name. Let's take him out now.
Yeah, I mean, even we said that, Catherine Allen here says, oops, hold on, show. Jam Jam's threat level just went up a lot, in my opinion, and I agree. As much as I love Jam Jam, I mean, we've kind of seen time and time again, his name is written down. He's like, oh my God, I'm here still again, and it's all over dramatic. So I think there is going to be a time, unfortunately, because I love Jam Jam, that Jam Jam probably exits this game.
And if he leaves next week, it's in full response, I believe, of Kane being the person voted out instead of Danny.
Mm-hmm.
The move should have been Danny.
Well, especially because if Soka and Ratu can get together and they're like, hey, we realize what Tika's doing and we got to take a shot at them. If you're taking a shot at them, Jam Jam's the person you're going after. You're not taking the shot at Carson. You're not taking it at Carolyn. You're taking a direct shot at him.
Yeah, we heard it tonight during the scramble from Franny. Franny's plan was we'll split on Jam Jam and Carolyn, not with the intention of Carolyn to go home, but the intention of Jam Jam to go home. Mm-hmm. It's also very interesting that still at this point, everyone is giving trust to Carson in that situation because, in my opinion, you split on based off their own perception of the players. Because we see after the nighttime stuff in the next day, we see Carolyn very much just telling us like what the perception is of her on the island, and that's the fact that that's her point. Her point is for people to think that she has no clue what she's doing, that she's this confused woman, but that's so that she can play her own way of the game. So based off that, if that perception is working, shouldn't the votes be between Jam Jam and Carson because they would be perceived by the rest of the tribes as the bigger threat? Or is his interconnectedness between everything still too powerful for them to see through that?
I don't know, but I definitely think Caroline, she's like, Carolyn's totally under the radar at this point. I think she gained a lot of brownie points by telling her sobriety story. And I think that people just think that she's just this, kind of flighty chick that is not really a big threat in the game. But she is a big threat in the game, and I love it. I'm hoping that she goes really deep into this game. I love that she keeps making the reference because I'm a father of 2 boys. She's, playing this game for her son that's given her this strength and guidance, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think the people that have talked shit on her now watch tonight's episode and hopefully they have a different opinion of her. I think she's a great player. And I also, we see here on day 16 when, Kane feels like, hey, after the Brandon vote, I'm woken up. This is like a Dungeons and Dragons moment. And I really need to play this game. And then everyone starts going crazy, idol hunting, and Danny's scrambling around looking for idols. Then everyone on the camp is looking for idols. And I actually thought, okay, Danny's going to find the idol again.
Right.
I truly felt this dude is finding an idol. The way they were editing everything. So
yes.
I was kind of shocked when Heidi finds her idol.
So
And
I feel we were supposed to be shocked by the edit, and that's the
Mhm.
only way I can make sense out of it. Because this is the
Yeah.
second advantage that Heidi has gotten now,
Right.
where the full edit of the hunt has been everybody else.
Mhm.
Every single other person is getting screen time.
Yeah.
Every single one. But
Right.
then they'll just like randomly, with like no pop or circumstance, no like big swell of music. Oh, Heidi found it.
Yeah.
It was like, so it's just, Dan, she's your winner pick. Explain this to me, because Heidi's edit is the one edit
Is
left
shit?
is confusing the ever living shit out of me. Like, say she wins, this is a worse edit than like Gabler's win. It's I would say right up there with Erica's, where it's like you don't really understand what's happening. Like, you hear Heidi talk about like, well, I want to play my game. I want to do something, but like I feel like she keeps using things in like incorrectly. She doesn't use that jury thing, or not the jury thing, the steal a vote from the bench thing correctly. It sends Matt home when that wasn't her intention. Now she suddenly finds this idol. She does the right thing of like, I'm not going to tell anybody about it, but there doesn't seem to be like direction with her edit, other than like
So
underestimated.
my worry with Heidi is I think it's going to come down to what does she do with this idol? Because if she doesn't play it correctly, she wastes it. I think she's screwed, because then I think the story is that Heidi does make it to Final Tribal Council, but they have put in enough there to kind of show why she's not winning the game.
Is she in like a Mike, like, and I love Mike Turner, but like based off what we saw in the final jury speeches of 42, is she in a Mike Turner spot where like she has the tools to win? She's playing a somewhat clean game, but is she not getting people enough on her good side to now when she starts cutting people? Like, if she cuts Jam ain't voting for Heidi. Like, that's the second time you screwed me over now, blah, 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 blah. You can get a poisoning in that jury very quickly with the wrong move for her.
That's what I could see with Heidi, is unless she starts turning it around quickly, is that could be part of the story. That it's like, Heidi, you had all the tools to potentially win this game. It was just every time you got to that crucial moment, you didn't play it correctly. And that's why, like, I don't think she has like a 0 vote finalist written over. Maybe that's what it is. But I could see her coming in like that second spot where it's, Heidi, like, you were right there. You had the opportunity to win this game. It was just every time we kind of put the ball in your hand, you fumbled it.
Yeah, it's like, because if we compare them as a duo of Heidi and Danny, the reason why I think Danny would get more credit for, like, at the moment they're playing the same game. We see, because like next time on, Heidi's like, I need to differentiate my game from Danny's. Danny, I think, would get more credit than Heidi, because I think Danny's just more vocally not honest, but his intentions are known. Like, so if you get blindsided by Danny, it's like, damn, he got me. Whereas like, it seems like Heidi's trying to be a little more low key, more subtle with her gameplay, and that's a very, like, I respect that game, but it's hard to gain that credibility, and it hurts more when she's the one that votes you out in that scenario versus if Danny votes you out in that scenario.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and Heidi, I'm not just seeing this big character edit. Like, yes, she's done some cool stuff, but there are just so many other players, I think, are like, their edits are getting dominated to be this potential winner. I could see
Right, and with
winning.
Jeff being so high on this season, he's always high on a season if
A dude
either a very athletic man wins or if like a big character wins. Because remember, he, like, 41 was a thing, and he was more excited because of the fact, like, oh, Survivor's back. 42, he was high on the cast because it was an entertaining cast with a fun character winner. 43, we see very much in the aftermath as well, wasn't a huge fan of it because he felt the players were playing too safe. And 44, he comes in saying, this is an amazing cast. They're huge personalities. So I just feel they wouldn't give the more quiet people that win.
She would have to crank it up to 100 these last couple episodes, not to win, but to have a shot at it. Because from everything that we've seen, if he's really talking it up and he's, this is such a great season. And from what we're getting edit wise, in my mind, it has to be one of the Tika 3 that win the game. If it's going to live up to it, because they're the ones we've seen the most. Those are the big characters. He's highlighting Jam Jam. They're highlighting Carolyn. They're highlighting Carson, for all this prep work and stuff that he did. So for me, I think it's coming down to those 3 unless something drastically changes or shifts in this last, month of the game.
Yeah, in my
viewing wise.
Yeah, in my opinion, I agree with you. I'll weigh Carolyn and Carson higher than Jam Jam just because I think if the 3 doesn't get to the end, I think Jam Jam's the first one who gets the shot taken at. I think outside Tika, until proven otherwise, you have to keep Danny on that list. Because I think Danny has a personality that a jury would vote for because his whole game, his whole edit
is stupid dances.
Well, besides
besides
the stupid dances, ignoring that, if you go based off his confessionals, what he's talking about is like, I came here to play the game. Full-hearted, like full speed, like I forget what the quote is, like full heart can't lose type thing. He's here to play the game, and he's here to play hard, have a fun time while doing it, have a smile on his face, curse at every single person when he loses immunity. My all-time favorite. But I could see him having respect for that because I think it would translate in a jury speech. Which is like, this is how bad I want it. I didn't care if people saw that I was getting idols. I got idols. I planted fake idols. I created alliances because of that. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I could see it from him. Franny gives me now that like once she loses immunity, she gets sniped.
So the one thing that I did love about Heidi, she finds the idol and she's just like, I'm not going to tell anyone, which she would know best because Danny told one person, which was her, and she immediately told everyone.
Yeah, right, dude. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I agree. I think Carson or Caroline has a better chance of winning than Jam Jam. But there's quite a few people that I would be happy if they won at this point, to be honest with you. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
They're starving out there. Carson hasn't eaten in days. They get tree mail.
Wait, before tree mail,
Matt,
I don't think we should brush over to camp life.
Oh yeah, this is where Carolyn's telling everyone she's been sober for 13 years.
Yeah, but like before the sober part, I think it's very interesting that they kept this in the edit. They had an off day, like in a 26-day game. Jam Jam talks about like how this is our first day that we didn't have to do anything, and like you look at the notes, Josh, Matt, and Brandon were voted out on consecutive days. And that should tell people, the viewers, like just how I think draining this 26-day format is. Because, like, Matt, you can explain it even better from being there. It's like, so you have tribal council. And now in a world where you are going back to tribal council that following night, and you still have to have the immunity challenge and to travel back and forth from that.
It'd be gnarly.
So in reality, from tribal council to the next tribal council, you have the time that you decide to stay awake post tribal council, and you have the few hours in between the immunity challenge and tribal council to plan out the full next round.
Right. Yeah, typically it's a 3-day. Each episode is a 3-day period of time. Some days there's just literally a day where there's no challenge, no nothing. It's just like, it's some people say it was boring, but it's like, we just get to chill, go in the ocean, do whatever. But yeah, it's like crazy because when I look at this game, I was the 7th person out on Survivor Caramoan out of 20 people on day 16. We're on day 16, and what are we down to the final 9?
Yeah, we were at final 9 on day 16.
11 people are gone 16 days in versus 7. So it is a way quicker game. And it almost reminds me like when I did the Durham Warriors Survival Challenge at Bob Crowley's, and they're still doing the Survival Challenge. They're just doing it in Illinois now. But I played that twice and it was like a nonstop, 3 days deal to where it was like challenge. It was like 6 challenges in a day. And I was like, wow, like this is gnarly. Like this is almost like more hardcore and draining physically and mentally than like regular Survivor because it's so quick. And I think that's what these players are dealing with. And I think they are deprived of food, even though you're like, when tonight, they can negotiate. We see this tree mail come where it says, today at the challenge, if you get a chance, you can sit out of the immunity challenge for rice.
Yep.
And as a viewer, you might say, and as a Survivor fan, there is no way in hell I would ever sit out of an immunity challenge, dude. Screw that. I'm here to play. But if you don't have a damn bit of food and your brain's not working properly because you're so malnourished, because they're just eating like this, like burnt, like fruit or whatever they're eating. I don't even. They're showing.
It was like unripe papaya.
Yeah, it's just disgusting. So like, it's gnarly, and like unless you play Survivor and go out there in these people's shoes, you can't really get the full scope of how crazy it is and how physically and mentally demanding it is. So even though I'm like, God, why would anyone sit out on this thing?
Yeah.
I can also understand, like, it's pouring the rain. Everyone looks freezing and miserable. And if I was there, and I'd be like, there's no possible way that I'm winning this challenge. Like, no way.
And my counterpoint to like everyone who's doing that is it isn't the same as Survivor, but if you're that against it, go and, go into your backyard and camp in there on, no sleeping bag, no air mattress, just sleeping on the ground, and don't eat and go about your normal life. That's how you're living for 2 weeks. And then go to work that next day and tell me how clear your mind's going to be.
It's not it's crystal clear. I do this all the time, obviously. But it's like, I get it. It's like, as a fan, you're not thinking about the element side of it. You're not thinking about the starvation side of it. And even if you are, you're like, but you should put the game first. Like, why as Kane, or like at a moment, there was a real chance that all of Ratu, who were just blindsided, we're gonna sit out to get rice when you are not in the power position. It's like this idea of the negotiation to sit out for rice. And I do want to do this quickly just so that we can really highlight the Carolyn scene because it deserves its own time. But the negotiation for rice is to show who feels that they're safe or who makes that decision of, I don't think I have a chance in hell of winning this immunity challenge, so I might as, like what Kane says at Tribal, I might as well get something out of it. Mm-hmm. And if that means we get rice, we get rice. But in my opinion, I think if I'm out there, I do have a Danny mindset of like, at that point, I've been starving. The rice, it will change how you're feeling, but but it'll be a quick moment. So in my head, I'm like, I think I need this, even if I'm not good at this challenge. I have to at least try. And
there's no way I'm sitting out. There's no way Matt Bischoff is sitting out in this scenario. Period. I'm playing for immunity. Yeah.
My comment about the negotiation is I need to get Jeff Probst a dictionary, because a negotiation is not saying I need 4 people. There should be some back and forth, not it's 4, that's the number, no deal.
Well, I mean, that's on the Cats because we never saw them say, well, how about this? Because in the other seasons of the New Era, we have seen them actually try to negotiate and him be like, no. And then that's not negotiating. That's you telling them, no, I need at least half of you to sit out, or I won't give you food. And just say that then. Just say that. If no one else is going to do it, then there you go. But let's get back to this. So, like, they're playing I Spy. They're having fun. They're chilling. And, like, Carolyn's talking about how this is, like, what she enjoys most out of the game is these bonding experiences because it's what gets people closer. And we get and what I love about this and how she's describing is they then use another player to confirm this with Franny, because Franny immediately goes, as right before they talk about the sobriety story is how much she's really gotten to know and love Carolyn because she's just herself, unapologetically herself, and she's like, this is who I want to keep around because this is what I want to be. And I feel like by keeping her around, I get to get that growth too. So now you're not just Carolyn's strategy of doing this isn't just strategy to move yourself further in the game, but also now you're seeing from a Franny perspective, like, I see Franny as an ally, but now I'm also seeing beyond the game. Like, I think by keeping Franny around, I can maybe open up more things about myself that I don't know about, and I can fully embrace being me. And now I get another type of win on this journey while I try to win $1 million and the title of Soul Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Dory right now says, I want to put this, it amazes me that they are a few days into merge and now are able to get to know each other.
Right. The pace of play.
Yeah, it's, it is kind of crazy because you do when you're sitting around at camp all day, even if the game is fast paced, like I was wanting to learn about people I was playing with because I think if you know more about somebody, you can really gauge like, okay, like feel like I'm pretty good at reading people. Is this player like a shyster, liar, like Johnny Fairplay? Are they a dumbass, like kind of player? So who knows? In the editing, we get this moment with Carolyn tonight, but who knows if it's been kind of discussed in the past. I would think it would be people's stories. If you're sitting around a fire and sitting around in your shelter, you're going to have conversations with other people. But yeah, this whole just camp life deal, getting the tree mail, trying to decide like, okay, are we going to really kind of play this? I mean, Danny's a big proponent of no one sitting out the challenge, right? We're here to play Survivor, but they also kind of are like, well, how's that going to play out when you really get to the immunity challenge? So we go to the immunity challenge, and it's rainy. It's completely miserable. Like everyone's freezing cold. Just because you're in a tropical location, you guys, doesn't mean it's warm all the time. There were times I was so freaking cold in the Philippines in the middle of the summertime that it's just like, if you're cold and wet, it's miserable. And this is like the worst possible time to do this specific challenge where you're standing 1 foot on a perch. You have to put your other foot on top of your foot and balance while you're holding up this like, bread roller kind of thing, balancing a ball and kind of wedging it between a piece of wood. So the rain has got to be a big disadvantage in this challenge. I doubt that the dream team of Survivor was testing this challenge in these conditions.
I will say, though, I don't think the weather truly, at the end of the day, impacted the result. I think it just sped up the result.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we see Carson and Lauren immediately like raise their hands. They see what the challenge is. They're both starting like, we'll sit out for ice. And that's when Jeff says, okay, we need 2 more. We get more back and forth. A lot of pussyfooting about it. And then Kane eventually raises his hand after Danny says, on Scout's honor, I won't vote. And in my head, and I'm glad that we get the confessional from Kane, like acknowledging the fact that he knew the honor thing was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I would have hated to see him go out being naive about it and be like, oh, well, when they said they wouldn't vote any of us out, so now I feel safe.
I do want to highlight Carson there, just simply for the fact is that, he was the biggest component. He wanted nothing to do with it. But he volunteered quickly second, but he wasn't the one that was going to be the first to raise his hand, because if they had all agreed to it, he wasn't going to be the first one to do it. But then as soon as someone else did, he was like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, because Lauren says it first, and then Carson immediately jumps in. And then we see this battle of who the fourth person's going to be. And we see Franny trying to convince Jamie. And it's because we know as the viewer, they want Jamie to flush her idol because they all think her idol is real. Because why wouldn't they think her idol is real?
Yeah.
So we see her hesitating. And I love Kane because this is Kane being a very good ally. Despite the food, despite him even saying he would sit out, he looks over at Jamie and goes, if you're hesitating, don't say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Compete. And that's when Heidi then like takes it and goes, okay, we can take Rice. I'll sit out.
Yeah.
And that's your 4. So we have Franny, Danny, Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Jamie competing. Ultimately, everyone drops except for Franny and Danny. And once again, Franny beats the muscle dude. She beats Brandon in the one balance, balancing a ball thing. And now she beats Danny in a balancing the ball thing.
Well, I love this challenge because like I like
Brutal.
the fact that there is like people actually battling out, just like I said last episode. I wish it was just the standing on the perch portion of the challenge. I didn't need to see the spinning around the nets and all this other stuff. This is a classic, just last person standing kind of thing. I am all about it. This is classic Survivor. This is what we want to see. And Franny wins again. And it just does go to show you that, if you're some strong person like Danny, doesn't mean you're going to freaking win a challenge.
And we've talked about this on past podcasts about like what your ideal body type is for Survivor. And Franny is one of those people who I think has that ideal body type. And that's why I sort of like that moment of Franny being like, I came into this game thinking I was going to be the weakest person here, and I'm here beating these jacked dudes. And the thing is, with a lot of these challenges, being jacked coming into the game helps you in the early portion of the game, but could hurt your chances of winning immunities at a high rate. Like we see Jonathan in 42 win some challenges, but like muscles doesn't mean that you can't win immunity.
Right.
But there's certain things that can make it a lot more difficult for you to win immunity because it's extra weight that you're holding up. Like someone with no like defined shoulders putting their arms up in the air, there's less pressure on your shoulders than someone who has jacked shoulders. Like, and you can see the difference between Danny and Franny there, Dan.
Yeah, no, I still can't believe that that's a thing of being like, oh, the jack dudes. Because how many of the jack dudes have we really seen been awesome at challenge? Sure, Jonathan was good. You have like the Joe Anglems. But I mean, if you're thinking about it more, it's Culpepper, yeah. And sure, there's outliers. But going across the seasons, it's a lot more. It's
lean.
The lean, like, the body type like a Franny, someone like that, or even going to like Ozzy. Ozzy isn't this big jack dude. He's very lean.
He's a short, lean dude. Like, yes, he put on weight on Game Changers, but even he will tell you that was on purpose. But yeah, like for guys, it's like you want to have that lean muscle tone coming in, because also the more bigger the muscle you have, the muscle eats at itself first before the fat, because there's or more quickly because there's less fat. Whereas lean muscle, there's still some fat around it.
Mm-hmm.
For you to get it taken off of. And then for women, it's like these more slender, and it doesn't really matter if they're like taller for women or shorter for women. It's like that body type is going to be helpful. And then you have to just put in the willpower. I think Franny just has a lot of determination and willpower and focus. And for these type of challenges, I think that's paramount.
And I think there's a lot of luck involved too. Like a challenge like this, it takes one slip. I kept being like, wow, is someone gonna like take their foot and just drop it down and have both feet and get like you're out. Sorry, you're out.
It's about someone that has that fine attention to detail, because something like this, it is one slip. But I think where you see a lot of these people go is they're holding it up, and it's a slip, and it's too much of an overcorrection because they panic. They're not able to stay calm and make the minor adjustment.
It's like when you're driving on an icy road, your instant reaction is to turn it immediately back in the opposite direction. But that's what can cause a skid, is by instantly reacting instead of driving into the curve, driving into the slip, because that's how you adjust. So that's actually a very excellent point, Dan.
Get one every once in a while.
No, you get more than once in a while. Your challenge takes are always on point, and you should listen to us talk about the challenge every Friday afternoon. We'll be talking about episode 9 of the World Championships.
But back at camp, people are so happy for this rice. The rice is like mentally, you're like, I can actually eat. We can actually think and focus because our bellies are full. And I feel like it's everyone, even the people that competed in the challenge and the people that like sat out, everyone is like overall happy that they have some rice. Kane knows that promises mean nothing. And we see this battle of some people that are wanting like Kane out. And then we have people like Carson, who's like, let's flush Jamie's idol, even though it's fake. And then there's speaking of like Danny being voted out. And the thought of voting out Danny, I really think is a very smart thing because Danny is sneaky. Danny just played his idol. Danny could potentially be someone that can win individual immunity challenges. I think he's just untrustworthy. I think Caroline is like totally down with like, let's get Danny out of this game right now. I think that would have been the move.
I agree, because we have these 3 trains of thought. We have Sokka, who wants to use their relationship with Tika to take out Kane. But try to get Jamie to flush her idol so that we can get that out of the game. Okay, cool. You have you have Ratu, who with their relationship with Tika want to split the vote because they've learned their lesson of piling on someone, and split between Heidi and Danny because they're the 2 vulnerable people on Sokka. And then in the event that Danny had the idol, it wouldn't have mattered if Danny or Heidi had the idol. But if one of them had the idol and played it, you still have enough votes to at a minimum tie the vote because they are for sure using the extra vote. And like they're playing this all right. Like they are playing for the knowledge is power advantage. Like we're gonna keep, everyone knows what we have. We are gonna alternate who has it. Now it's a blind pick if someone had it. So you remove that from the equation. Like they're doing everything right there. And then you also have Franny, who's like, does no one see this? Like for multiple rounds now, this Tika 3 have been able to be the king and queen makers. Like they're the ones who are ultimately deciding. Like we are at their mercy. Like, doesn't it make sense for us to align with Ratu and take out at least one of them? Like, let's take out Jam. And Danny goes, no, that's stupid. That's stupid because they have advantages. I'm like, and Danny, you were calling people dumb for how they wanted to play the game. You're dumb for thinking only about advantages and how that can implicate the game. That is only a factor. 3 people being a combined vote is more powerful than an extra vote or an idol.
Especially because you assume that I can only imagine that Carolyn has said it at some point, is that of how close she is with Carson and how close she is with Jam Jam. So that's got to be well established and known. And you look at the other groups and they're at this point, they haven't necessarily been working together the entire game, like since day one, right off the bat. They're more there out of necessity than anything. So it should be obvious there that if you're looking at the fractions of the 3, that is by far the strongest 3 here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. But it just gets discarded. So now it's back to the narrative that we've been having. Tika's in the power position. We get to ultimately decide. And now the real decision is you have Carolyn, who believes the big move is to vote out Danny. Jam Jam wants to vote out Kane. But like he straight up admits, this is a personal vote because Kane put my name down. I want to vote out people who put my name down. And then he tries to dictate it to Carolyn as if this is a threat decision. Like, Kane's obviously the bigger threat between our options here. And Carolyn's just like, what, are you dumb? Like, Danny's right here. I can't stand Danny. And Danny's a personal vote for Carolyn, which is the very funny part. It's like, I still haven't gotten over right before Mergatory, the dude bro's just talking around me. I want Danny gone. He's sneaky. He's more powerful. I don't see Kane being this threat because, like, as we have mentioned, Kane has not voted right. Ever.
Kane is not a threat. If I'm looking at this as a view, I'm like, God, Danny is way more of a loose cannon threat, non-trustworthy. He could find an idol at any time. He obviously played his idol for somebody else. The dude is dangerous,
right?
And just a loose cannon. Dumb.
And if you have a 3 of Sokka where Franny is now in immunity challenges that she's gotten competed in, she's 2 for 3. She's 2 for 3 in immunity challenge wins. And then you have Danny, who has the potential of being an idol finder, because once you find one, you have to assume that they're in a good position to find another.
Yes.
But you also have Heidi, who also found like the right key for the advantage, and unknowingly has found a real idol.
Yeah.
Or unknowingly to the rest of the cast has found an idol. That's more dangerous because you're already locking up that one of that 3 is going to be safe, and then you allow that person to stay who could then find the idol, and now you're screwed because you only have a 50% chance of hitting right, and if he plays his idol correctly, then you don't have the numbers anymore, and one of you goes home anyway. So this was the moment for you to be like, okay, it's silly of me to vote just because Kane put my name down. Clearly, Danny's the bigger threat. And then if you look at Ratu, I love Kane. The threat of those 3 is Lauren. Like, but
I honestly, I mean, the threat is Lauren, but yeah, Danny staying in this game is dangerous. I think, he obviously says at Tribal Council, I am not a scout. Like he kind of owns it. He's done a lot of funny things besides his stupid dances. I mean, we've seen him last time he like farted in the middle of a challenge. As much as some of the stuff is ridiculous, I think Danny has the potential to win challenges and make it deep into the game. And they had a chance tonight to vote him out, and they didn't. So he's lucky that he's still here.
He's lucky that ultimately Tika decides. And we don't get to see the full story, but based off what we are given, we can just make the assumption that they made the decision to placate Jam Jam, or it was like they all come together. Jam Jam's insistent that it needs to be Kane, and Carolyn's not playing it and I don't think it's her personality to be very forceful with her own agenda. Like, her agenda right now is just let other people think that they're in the power positions. I'm going to just keep maneuvering around. I still have my idol. She gets to keep holding on to that. And I think at this point, she may never have to play it and get her Marianne moment. Like, I found this on like day 2 and I never had to play this. Y'all thought you didn't think I was a threat. And even if you did, I would have been able to sniff it out because none of you guys think I'm a threat. So I would have been given the information because no one thought I was capable of finding stuff like this.
Right.
So I think ultimately, because she says, and you hear her say, I'm fine with either going. I don't trust either of them. I think Danny's a better play. And I think you put stuff in there on purpose because I think it has to backfire on somebody that the move was on Kane.
Yeah. And we see, Kane at Tribal Council, he gets asked a question by Probst like, would you like to be at like a chaotic tribal or just a real kind of mellow, straightforward? And he's like, I'd rather be at a, chaotic, crazy style tribal. And then like, Carolyn gets like totally paranoid. And this is when tribal starts going live. Everyone starts whispering, adds to the confusion. And after all is said and done, what I love about this Tribal Council, first of all, I looked at my phone. It's like 8:46 p.m. going to tribal. So I'm like, cool, we got 14 minutes of tribal. This is sweet. The fact of the matter is no one played anything like crazy
no idols.
Besides, no idols are played. And so yeah, I enjoyed the tribal. I enjoyed the episode as a whole.
So-
Kane goes home.
Dan.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Matt. You said, it was the question that was asked to Kane, because that question actually, it really annoyed me. And it annoyed me because of Jeff. He's like, chaotic. I'm like, chaotic, Jeff, you're the one that made it this way. All these past tribals have been chaotic because you can't just let well enough be.
Yeah.
And why this was such a good episode is because, Matt, you mentioned no advantages were played, no idols were played. And this was such a good episode because you just let the players take care of the show. Look what happens when you give them control of the show. We get an awesome episode.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Both answers are wrong. Like, the answer is you need a mix. You need a mix of chaos and level-headed play. You need that amongst the cast, and you need that amongst the season. Because if you're running at just like such a high, it will eventually burn out. Like, and then when it burns out, it's not a gradual, okay, we're going downhill. It will be high, crash. And then everyone as a viewer and as a player is like, oh man, this is bad. Like, just like straight bad gameplay, not fun to watch. Because then it's just like the people that are enjoying it are like, oh, I enjoy seeing everybody mess up, and I don't care about like really what is happening. But you don't want it to be straightforward. Like, you don't want it to be Redemption Island.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want it to be a very level-headed, everybody stick to your tribe, have your buddy. Jeff's gonna give me all the clues, so I have all the idols and information, and I get to win the game after taking 500 chances to try to win this game. Like, that's boring.
Right.
But we have seen seasons that really flow between the two, and those are the ones that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Pearl Islands has its low moments, but it has this nice wave of very exciting moments. It's very like chaotic gameplay. You need both. And I don't like that Jeff is like used all of this tribal council as propaganda for his wishes.
Alex, you're absolutely right. What's the best US season considered of all time? It's heroes versus villains. It isn't excitement every single episode. There are those lulls. Like, if every moment is the biggest episode of the season, then no one's going to remember all of it. What you need are those few standout moments of the season. That's what becomes remembered forever.
And if everyone's and if you're trying to tell, because Jeff is trying to tell the viewer here, like anyone who's applying to the game, I want every single one of you to be chaotic. If every single person comes in being like, oh, I need to impress Jeff, so I need to be playing this chaotic game, or like, this is the way I'll get on the show, is by being a chaotic person. No one's chaotic if everybody's chaotic. It's that theory of like, if everything's the same, then in fact it is the same. Like, it's not exciting if everything's exciting. It just brings it all back down. Like, now that's your base, which means you have to go even higher. And sometimes that's impossible.
It is. But yeah, overall, light years better than last week's episode. I am stoked. I hope Johnny Fairplay had a great time tonight in New Jersey. And if you want to see Johnny Fairplay at some viewing parties, the month of May, I think he's got a lot of stuff going on.
I think every single week.
Yeah, survivortix.com, right?
If you want me to read it off, Matt, it's next week, May 3rd. They're going to be in Durham, North Carolina at Clouds Brewing. I should also be there with Johnny, but he's going to be joined by the Queen, Jesse Lopez, as well as, I believe, Zane Knight, Adam Gentry, and potentially a few other guests. The following week, May 10th, they're going to be at Chicago, Illinois at Bounce Nightclub there. On May 17th in Charlottesville, North Carolina. I forget the name of the place, but it's another place where Johnny's having another beer release. And then for the finale, Charlotte, North Carolina. All of these tickets are available at survivortix.com. That's survivortix.com. Join Johnny, join the Queen, and plenty of other surprise guests.
It's always a great time.
Yeah, and when they're out having a blast with all of you fans that are able to go and do a live viewing party, which I'll always recommend that you take at least one opportunity to go to them. They are amazing experiences. You'll still have me. You'll still have Matt, the Beard Bischoff. We'll have Dan, the ones that he doesn't go to, breaking down the episodes, right after the episode ends.
And I don't know if Johnny, I mean, typically when Johnny does these viewing parties or these appearances, he will then do another kind of recap of the show. If you want to see Johnny's takes, him and Wayne Memmott usually do that on Friday. I'm not sure if that's happening this Friday or not, but be on the lookout for that. And if you want to support the podcast and get more involved in the Reality After Show community, become a patron, realitypatron.com. We do a weekly Q&A podcast, secret Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. I've met a lot of really cool people and friends, and it's just so happens to be this show that we all love so much has brought us all together, and we appreciate the support. And if anyone from this season of Survivor is listening, we love you. We hope you're having a fun time on this journey, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of the season plays out. And we will see you next week. And by the way, Dan, because Kane is out, do not have to worry about getting a tattoo.
We'll make a new bet.
No. I'm only making a new bet.
Stay tuned for the challenge where we make a new bet.
I don't think I'm doing that again. It'll probably happen at some point.
This is a storyline to keep people coming back, man. This is episodic television. People have to watch in real time to figure out what dumb tattoo bet will Dan make next.
I'm just happy that Johnny will stop sending me stupid pictures of neck tattoos, because that's all I've been getting.
Stop, Pig. Keep making them.
I love it. Well, thank you very much, and we love you all, and we'll see you next week on the podcast. Have a good evening. See y'all.
And for more